Welcome back for another episode of Sunday Soul Day, fueling your mind, body, and soul with soulful conversations and life-changing insights. Today's episode is sponsored by Leadership Garden, a coaching ecosystem created to provide women and men with the safe, supportive space to rewire leadership identities, prune limiting patterns, and grow into purpose-aligned roles. The platform cultivates holistic growth backed by neuroscience for leaders, working parents, founders, and teams seeking to lead with authenticity, alignment, and wholeness. In today's powerful and deeply moving episode, we sit down with Dr. Robert Bleck, founder of the Source Completion Therapy Center and the creator of Source Completion Therapy, a proven 3-phase process designed to cleanse and permanently heal emotional wounds left by trauma, abuse, and painful life experiences. We also discuss his latest book, Give Back the Pain. Dr. Bleck's story begins with unimaginable hardship, from a childhood marked by severe abuse to becoming a nationally recognized therapist, author, professor, and innovator. His journey is a testament of resilience, empathy, and the courage to transform pain into purpose. Let's welcome him to the show. Welcome to Sunday Soul Day, Robert.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure and honor to be here with you and your audience.
Likewise, I'm really excited to chat with you. We have lots to get through. And I want to just start with your background and your journey a little bit, because you've shared that your life, started off very difficult, years of severe abuse and other things. Like, how did those earlier experiences kind of shape really your empathy and calling that eventually led you to psychology and counseling?
A great deal they shaped me.
Wow.
The abuse was really painful. If you want some more specifics, I'd like to give them so
Yes,
people know what I
please.
went through. So my mother, who was abused herself as a child, was filled with anxiety, anger, and rage, and that fury always came out on me. Starting at about the age of 3, she began to beat me, degrade me, and humiliate me, which seemed like it was every day. Now, the beatings themselves, sometimes she would hit me with her fists, sometimes with her open hands, my face, whatever she could reach at the time. I was just a little boy. Um, Other times, she would look for an object to hit me that was close, a shoe, a hanger. She liked a wooden spoon that was in the kitchen, a big wooden spoon, smacked me. And a belt with the buckle, particularly, she would hit me with the belt because that hurt more. The buckle would hurt more. So that was really painful and difficult. And sometimes what she would do, she would find creative ways to torment me even more. One time, I was about 3 and a half, maybe. I know it, because I went back in time as my own process. My sister wasn't born then, and I was 4 years older than her, so I had to be about 3 and a half. It was night and I was scared. I woke up in the middle of the night and I went into my parents' room for comfort in some way. What she did, she took me back, put me on the bed, and tied me up to the bed. She tied the rope around the bed over my chest and kept tying it until it was really tight and I couldn't move. So I was terrified. I was confused. I felt betrayed. I felt trapped. I felt all those feelings. So that was the beatings. The humiliation occurred each day, almost each day too. She was. I would wet my bed because I was so anxious from all of this, and she would use that if she wanted to torture me or torment me more. When people were in the house, relatives, cousins, friends, she would tell me, "But Robert, you wet your bed again. You're aware of that, right in front of everybody." So that was really degrading. Again, I felt trapped. I wanted to get out of there. And some of the other things that it affected me and how it did, I was terrified of the dark. I had to sleep with a light on until my teens, my early teens. I had terrible nightmares, just recurring ones, just about every night. I dreamed that monsters and witches were after me to eat me, cook me, and hurt me in some way every night. It was, and that continued. Those nightmares continued for a long time until I worked on my process myself. I bit my nails. I bit my nails to the. Sometimes they would bleed. I bit them so much. So that's how it affected me. About 9 years old, though, when I was still in the house, um, I began to feel intense empathy and compassion for anyone else who was struggling or suffering in some way, whether it was a child who was bullied at school, whether it was someone who was sick, injured, handicapped, in grief in some way. And I remember it was nine, I was nine. I stayed home from school sick one day, and I was watching in black and white. It was the original movie of Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. It was in black and white, and I said, "What is this? I never saw this." And again, most of the people know it's about the masses of French people, the misery that they endured, and it centers around two characters: a man who steals a piece of bread because his family is starving and he wants to feed them, and the inspector or the policeman chases him and hounds him throughout the movie and throughout his life to try to put him in the jail and punish him. And I'm there, 9 years old. I'm sobbing, I'm crying, and I knew that I wanted to do something to help humanity at 9 years old. So that was it conceptualized the beatings that I got. I knew what it was like, so I wanted to help others. Around 14, I was around 14. I made a decision that I'm going to get out of the house and I'm going to make something of myself to help others. So how was I going to do that? I needed to survive, and I needed to get to college and get educated. So my survival, I found two things. I found sports, which I know you were active in as well, and
Yeah.
I was impressed with it. I became a good athlete. I played soccer and I played ice hockey, and that kept me out of the house. And I had a camaraderie with the members on the team, and I was decent at it. I played even until college. In college, so that was one thing. And nature helped me in dealing with this surviving. Nature was great. I loved waking up early in the morning, seeing the sunrise. I would listen to the birds. I always felt they were singing to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it calmed me. It gave me peace. So the combination, it let me survive until I was able to get out and get to college. Now my parents didn't have much money, so I knew I had to work also for college. But at 14, my mother came to hit me again because she was hitting me up until then. And I just put out my palm like this. I said, "No, you can't hit me anymore. I'm strong from playing ball and sports. I will not allow this, and I will defend myself." So she looked right into my eyes, turned around, and that was the last time she hit me. That was it. So what I did, I saved. I worked really hard academically, and I worked hard to earn some money. I did a lot of things. When I went to college, when I got into college, I was fortunate to get to college. I was lucky. I had a academic scholarship for full tuition, and the money I earned, I used for spending money. So I was fortunate. I did still work in college also, and one of the things I worked upstate New York. I went to school in Albany, and the railroad needed people to shovel snow in off the tracks in the winter, and I shoveled snow. So I earned some money to do that, and I served as a telephone operator at the campus center. Was surviving. I was out of the house, so it was a relief to me. Um, and I had the choice. I could go to medicine, become a medical doctor,
Mm-hmm.
which I took pre-med courses, or psychology. So I started taking both of them together, and I said, "No, medicine doesn't fit. It's not the fit. Psychology is." So I got my degree in college in psychology, and then I went to grad school for a PhD in counseling. So that's the beginning of my life, and then how I developed the three-phase process that I work with. I'll be glad to get into it, unless you have any more questions right now about that.
No, I mean, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your journey. And this is a large reason why I do this show, because as much as we think we are so different, we have a lot of shared experiences. And although maybe someone didn't grow up with an abusive mother, they may have experienced abuse of some sort throughout
Yes,
their life. And so it's such a beautiful way to unite us and to let people know that they're not alone. So first and foremost, I appreciate you sharing. But something that really jumped out to me, and I just can't imagine enduring that level of abuse, you know, every single day, because it hits you mind, body, and soul,
yes,
and
it
it
did.
just strips you. but yet you still found empathy for others in that abuse and this level of resilience in yourself, and more importantly, courage. And I think that's such a beautiful thing to point out, because despite all of those challenges, you were still able to tap into that. Before we go any further, like, what do you think that was? Like, what allowed you to tap into that? Because did you have a lot of great imprints, throughout your life, like between coaches or teachers or anything? Like, what was that?
It didn't come externally, actually.
Hmm.
It came internally. From I watched that movie, like I said, it came that part of it was DNA, part of it was just in me. I felt instinctually it was there, and part of it was, well, look, I've been through the abuse. I could help these human beings. So it was just me. It was me saying that. And a lot of the coaches, I didn't like a lot of the coaches. They were really strict. I actually liked playing ball better with pickup games and that kind of stuff.
More freedom.
I like the freedom. So,
Yeah.
so, so it wasn't that. My father was a decent, unkind man, and he supported me. He should have protected me, and I would talk to
Yes.
him about it. Now,
That was going
I
to be my
could,
next question.
yeah. When we get to the phases of my therapy that I created, I'll talk more about it. But
Yeah.
I talked to him about it. That he should have protected me, but he was kind and he was a gentleman. So I sort of modeled that from him, and
Interesting.
he was a good man to other people, but he was a little off in his protection of me. But I was able to go from there, and I went forward.
No, but I love that you said that, because a lot of times we think it's something external, but it really is deep in you. And some way, somehow, through it, not being protected, experiencing abuse, you're able to tap into it. And so, one thing that I talk about on the show often is how people are able to turn their pain into their purpose.
Right,
And many people avoid looking at their own traumas because it feels unbearable.
right.
And they have buried it so deep. I use the treasure chest analogy,
It's a good one.
where they have buried all their trauma in this treasure chest, but then they lock it and then they bury the key.
Right.
And so to
Yes.
even get in there to find it, they have to go really deep. And a lot of times people don't want to do that. What gave you the strength to kind of face that pain rather than run from it?
Okay, good question. I knew when I went for my PhD, I explained in down it was out down south in Florida, University of Florida, and part of the program was I had to go for therapy myself in the courses because I still had anger inside of me and I still had fear. I,
Absolutely.
I was still fear. I had still had nightmares, so I knew I wasn't complete with my issues. So I went privately also to private counselors and therapists. But what I found, they weren't going deep enough. Okay, they didn't get to the core of what was going on. See, if you just work on a symptom, it's just going to work on the symptom. It's not going to take care of and release all these feelings that are bottled up in the treasure chest, as you say. They're in the psyche, they're in the subconscious, however we want to put it. So I knew I had to work more in it. And when I finished school, I started working in let's see, schools, clinics. I became a professor at a university, training grad students to become therapists and counselors. So what happened is they began to get referrals if I would see them privately. So I opened up a private practice, and most of them were saying, "Look, I was injured as a child. I was abused. Would you see me?" I said, "Let's try. I'll try to see you." And I did, and I got more referrals, and I guess I was somewhat successful, but I was still not happy because all the therapies that I was trained with and trained to use, didn't go as far reaching down and getting out those feelings that was stuck in there. Let me talk about what feelings are stuck in these people who come to me and people who are abused. When we're first born, all of us, every one of us, for the most part, are pure. We're innocent. We're just bursting with potential. Uh, this little baby that we were, and that I hold at times. I hold a lot of babies that because I love to do it. The essence is perfect. Okay.
Yes.
So what happens though is perfect as we are and as pure as we are. We're dependent. We're very dependent on caregivers to take care of us. Trust them to feed us, when we're hungry, change us when we're soiled. We trust them to protect us from harm. Don't let us run out in traffic. Don't stick your hand in sockets. Don't, go out in lightning. Okay, all of those things. And we trust them when we're hurt. We trust them to encourage us and comfort us. If that doesn't happen, if the opposite happens, if they beat us, if they degrade us, if they are mean to us, if they molest us, all of that beautiful potential and innocence is gone. It goes, and a whole bunch of negative feelings are produced. Now, I'm going to give you just a few of them that everybody that I see comes with, however they were abused: worthless, inadequate, defective, not good enough, empty, betrayed, rageful. And those are just a few. There's more and many. What happens is they get stuff down because it's not possible for a child as when they're that young, to process all this betrayal. It's not. They would go schizophrenic. They would go psychotic. So the brain represses those feelings, suppresses them, and stuffs them down. And they go down deep, as you say, the treasure chest, and they stay there until they're processed out. So my job when I was working with these people that I saw was to get these feelings out. I said, if I could get these feelings out, I could stop the symptoms that are coming as a result of those feelings. Like some of the symptoms, I call them diversions, because subconsciously our bodies, our psyche wants to get these feelings out, like sort of eating poison, having food poisoning. Your body wants to get it out, and it gets it out from every orifice it can. Same with the psyche and subconscious. It wants to get these feelings out because it's ruining us. It's hurting us, And what happens is the conscious doesn't want to feel it. So it gets diverted into an obsession, a phobia, a compulsion, rage, like road rage. It gets diverted into eating disorders. It gets diverted into panic attacks. Whatever, I call them all diversion because it's diverting away from really dealing with the feeling.
So good.
Thank you. And that's in the book. I explain all this, and it's for everybody to read, and it's meant for everybody. It's done through stories of people I work with, and I teach it, and that's it. But we'll get to that. I just want the divergence. So they come with me to all those diversions and all that pain, and they don't know. Sometimes they don't even know where the pain is coming from. They just had the diversion. So I knew that personally. I knew because the private therapy wasn't working. I knew that I had to go deeper myself, and I knew I had to go deeper for the people I was working with. So I experimented. What worked, what didn't work, what was really great, and I came up with this sequence over time of a 3-phase process to get those feelings out. When I get those feelings out, those diversions go away. That's the beauty of it, and that's what I thought would happen, and it's happened with everybody who I work with. If they stay in the process. And it's just rewarding. It's so rewarding for me. Recently, I've worked with a really talented singer and actress, award-winning. She was award-winning, but she started to go on taking drugs. She was really taking a lot of harmful drugs to an extent, extensively. And she was beginning to get and be with toxic people. She was having a lot of toxic relationships. She was going from one to another, getting abused by some of those. She had called me. She had seen me on a show, and she also read my book. And she said, "Would you please see me? I've had such bad experiences with other therapists. Some did just behavioral stuff, didn't work. They tried the new thing called EMDR. She said it didn't work at all for me. And I went to a psychiatrist." Because what I was doing also, not only the drugs and the alcohol and the toxic relationships, I was like having these out of body experiences, and I was terrified of them. So the psychiatrist I saw, he says, you seem like you're schizophrenic. I'll give you medication. So it's terrified her. So she called me and she said, "Would you please see me? Could you do it virtually because I'm in a different country?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I'll do it for you." And what I found, I said, "No, you're not schizophrenic. What's going on is you've stored feelings inside of you deeply, probably from your childhood. And the out of body experience is called dissociation. Your brain wants to separate from you because it's so painful. Okay? That's what's going on there. And the rest of the drugs and the toxic relationships are diversions, and you're trying to comfort that pain that's still inside of you. So I said, so let's go back in time and let's see what was going on. And we went back, and it was her father who hurt her. He abandoned her. He abandoned the family. He was cold to her, pushed her away when she needed affection. Even when she had success, he never praised her, never said anything like that. So she knew the last phase in the 3-phase process was to go back to the person who hurt you and to confront them and tell them what they did, and how you felt, okay, and what made you feel. So she did that, and now she's on a great road. She's finished with the drugs, off the drugs, got rid of every toxic relationship, and her career is again back on track. So the diversions go away, and it's exciting for me. It's rewarding for me. And I just received recently an email from her saying, I would want to thank you from the earth to the heavens. That's how much you've done for me.
Sweet.
So I that's the rewards that I get from working with these people. So it's magnificent.
No, it is so rewarding. Like, talk to us about that 3-phase process. Like, give us the 3 phases just for the audience so they can, in case they want to write them down.
Sure. So the first phase is awareness. Okay. So I have to get these people come in. Sometimes they don't know what they just come in with the diversion. Again, I work with a man who came in and he says, I'm smoking, I'm drinking, I'm not doing right, I lost my wife. I said, well, do you know where that's coming from? He says, yeah, I'm drinking too much. I said, well, usually it's a way that you're avoiding what you're feeling inside. Mm-hmm. And he says, well, how long is this going to take? Okay. So he wasn't even aware. I said, well, it's not going to be finished by lunchtime. I could tell you that. So awareness, I have to get these people to be aware who hurt them and how did they do it. Okay. So part of that in that, I mean, mindfulness talks about that, but that's just not a complete package. It's just they talk about you being aware of things. This is an awareness of how you were hurt, who hurt you, and how you felt about it. So I use in this phase, I use body language. When I'm with a person, I'm looking at their body language because the body is always speaking. So the subconscious is talking through their body. I know that. They don't know that at first. And I'm also listening to that very carefully. So I'm looking with my eyes, hearing with my eyes, not just their words, their body too. So I'll give you an example of that for the audience and for you. This woman was referred to me, I think by a doctor in a hospital. She had this rash. She would get it all over her body all the time, and for years. The doctors gave her medication. They gave her orally. They gave her shots. They gave her eczema. Was it eczema? They tried everything, and it was still there. And she came to me, and I said, "Okay." So they weren't successful. She says, "No, I still have the rash." And I said, well, let's look at this. Let's examine this a little closer. Tell me what under the skin is saying for you. Tell me what is that saying? She said, she's shocked. She said, well, no one ever asked me that question. I said, well, think about it for a second. What's under the skin that is saying something to you? She thought, and then she said, that's the poison that my grandfather put in me when I sat in his lap and he molested me. It's the poison I threw throughout my body. So that just a little example of using body language that I saw, and the rash went away, needless to say, as I worked more with her. The second phase is it's called relive, release, and re-experience. So I have them go back in time.
Relive. Okay, relive, release,
and re-experience. Okay. So what I do in that phase, I teach them hypnosis I use, and I teach them self-hypnosis so they can do it themselves, and I teach them visualizations. They go back in time. I teach them to go back in time to the events of the abuse. Yeah. So what that does, it brings up all the feelings, because I ask them when they're back, I want you to see the sights, feel the feelings, see the smells, see the sounds, just experience it as you did when you were younger. Okay? This takes a little time to get here because they're scared of this, but when we do get there, it's very successful. because all those feelings they were hiding and trapped, that really brings them to the surface. The awareness phase is cognitive, basically. It touches on it, but then the second phase really gets to the core of the feelings, and it's very successful. So the last phase is the phase of completion. So once they have all these feelings on the surface, they go back to the person who has hurt them or persons, and they tell them how they were hurt and what they felt about it. So people often ask me, well, suppose they're dead. So they say, well, they go back to the grave, or they could write to them, or they could visualize them in my office. They close their eyes, they visualize them, and they talk to them. So if the people are in California and I'm in New York, they could just visualize them being next to them and speaking. So they have to visualize, and they have to believe that they were back in time, back and talking to the person. So that is really successful too, and it's powerful.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You gave me chills on the last one, especially. I'm like, I'm sitting here with goosebumps because I think about, I've experienced, molestation as a child. And, you think about how powerful that is to take your power back. It's
Right.
like you go through this process, like you said, the awareness where you tap into it,
Right.
you know, you then relive, release, and then re-experience. And then the completion component is like now you go back and take your power back by letting them know,
That's exactly right.
yes, you hurt me, but you can't hurt me anymore.
Correct.
And now I'm here. So it's like that's amazing. It's an
Mm.
amazing, and it's so it's simple to remember, but I know it takes work because I think about my process of healing, all the things that have occurred throughout my life, not just that, but
Right. Right.
verbal abuse, physical
Yes.
abuse, all the things, right? And it took years for me, to do that because I was also doing it like most people do. They, go to therapy and then they're kind of like piecemealing their healing journey together,
Exactly.
And so a large part of my coaching is to tap back into those areas, but then forgive yourself and forgive the other person so then you
Correct.
can move forward, and so but that's a process.
It is a process,
Yeah.
yes, and I'm glad you've done it. You've healed. I'm assuming.
Yes. Oh yes.
Terrific.
Yes.
Great.
Well, and here's the thing, you're going to be in your healing journey forever,
Right.
like there is no like and I say this because for the audience as well, it's like you're not going to get to a point where you say, oh, I'm healed, but the thing is it no longer holds power over you.
Correct. Correct.
And so for me, nothing holds power over me except for
Great.
God.
Understood.
so,
Understood.
so
And
that's where
yourself. And
yeah,
yourself.
and
Right.
myself. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
I feel like God's in me, so we're one. So yeah,
Good.
it's like
Understood.
nothing holds power over me,
Understood.
but it took me a lot of healing to get to this point. And
I
that doesn't
understand.
mean that something down the road won't hold power over me. I'm human,
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's a great, point to mention to the audience is that even when you think you're healed, there may be something that triggers you. Maybe it's a smell, maybe it's
Yes.
a
Yes.
sound, whatever it is. That's okay.
Yes.
Now you have the tools. So
Correct. And what I do with that, if it's when people are triggered, I say, let's go back to the source. So
yes,
go back to the
exactly.
source, relive that, and then talk to the person who hurt you. So it's very comprehensive. There are three phases. They're very comprehensive.
Yes.
I mean, it's simple. It's three phases in concept, but
No,
to
in
do it,
concept,
it
that's
takes a
what I
while.
said. It's easy to remember, but it's not
So,
so easy.
yeah, to
Well,
do, yes.
yeah, talk to us
People,
about your book too, because
yes.
you mentioned it a little bit in Give Back the Pain. Love, love, love the title
Thank you.
for so many reasons of what we're just talking about.
Yes.
But you share a lot of stories and tools for
Yes.
healing in there.
Yes.
Like, what do
Yes.
you hope readers kind of walk away with as they're reading it?
Well, that number one, it's possible to heal. I did this. I did this three phases myself. So again, at the end of awareness and reliving, I confronted my mother, and I told her what she did, and I
Oh,
explained how it affected me. So when I tell them to do this, when they come to me, I've done it. So and I know it works, and then they know that I understand them and I understand the pain. So I wanted them to know that there's help out there. You just have to. There's three things that I say in the book to heal. You have to be committed to the process that you want to heal.
Whew, that's good.
You have to stay. You have to have the courage to do that. To give back the pain. That's why the title of the book, to the person who hurt you. And it depends on how deep and how buried your feelings are. So that depends on the healing time. But it does take commitment, and it takes work and pain at times. And that's why that last phase is really difficult for people at first, because they still want to be loved by the people who hurt them.
Yes.
And they still want to be loved.
That. Oh, I love that you said that. I was just going to ask that, because I can imagine, right? Two components to this. You want to tell them because you want to give back the pain, right? But then the other component is if it's a parent or someone that you have to have a relationship with, or, I shouldn't say have to, but, it's like, it's difficult to sever that relationship completely, right? And so, and they want to be loved and to feel worthy and all those things, right? Like, I can imagine how difficult that is. But then on the other side of this is like, what if they don't listen?
Correct.
What if they don't give you space to share that and to give it back,
Good. Well, I'll address that if you like.
Yes, please.
Okay. So what happens is, in that case, and that happens, sometimes they don't own it. They don't want to deal with it. They're
in lots of cases.
In lots of cases, yeah, they are. So what I say is, it doesn't matter what the reaction is of the people that hurt you. What matters is you get the feelings out and you complete it, and you give your feelings back to. They put it in, you give it back to them. So that's, again, the title of the book. And that works for them. When they have a difficult time at first. Well, no, I wanted some relationship. I said, just focus on yourself and your healing. That's what I need you to do. And they do it, and that's successful.
Yes.
So, and sometimes the parents or uncle or grandmother or father or a husband later on in life who's beat them. So sometimes they do want a relationship and they want to work on them. And I say, well, that's the secondary gain. But my first gain is you're healing, you're really cleansing. That's what I want for you. Okay.
That's good. Oh, gosh, you gave me chills again. That is so good. I love that, because it's like, first take your power back, and then you can decide from there.
Correct.
How you want the relationship to be. So good.
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh.
Exactly. Yeah. you have it, you understand it, and thank you so much for talking to me about it.
Like, neuroscience shows us that trauma rewires your brain completely, like affecting your memory, your emotions, even your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, all of that. Right. Like, how does the source completion therapy work? I would say work with rather than against that, helping the brain to rewire and really create lasting healing.
Right. Well, what happens is, when a person's abused, they're in basically flight or fight response continuously. Okay, so that's all neurology. Hormones are produced, stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, produced in the adrenal glands. They make your heartbeat faster. They pump energy into your muscles so you could run, you could fight. When that it doesn't go away, if it's continually working on your body, those hormones, you begin to suffer. You could have gastrointestinal problems. You could have headaches. You could have pain in your muscles. You could have so many things. Heart conditions you could have through this. So what happens in the source completion therapy? See, what I want to do is I want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the flight or fight response. Mm-hmm. If I could get out all these feelings that have been in there, that have been causing the flight or flight response for sometimes they come to me later in decades, they've been with this. If I can get rid of those feelings to where it belongs, the parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and starts to calm this person down, and then they're able to function much better and live fruitful lives. One person, I just want to tell one story on this.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
One woman came to me in her 30s, and she was really, really beaten and abused by her father. Her mother had died, and she was young, and he would rape her. He'd rape her in the bed, he'd rape her in the shower. He would beat her afterwards, he'd call her a whore, he would tie her to the radiator. So, needless to say, I saw her years later. She came to me. She hadn't taken a shower in I don't know how long, she said, because I was terrified. I was raped in the shower, and I sleep on the floor because he raped me on the bed. So I said, well, let's go back. We'll go back in time. We'll work on this. And we did go through my 3 phases. It took a while. And she then started to sleep in the bed. She took a shower. She decided to go back to school. She got a degree in social work. So, and she has a practice she's working on, and she got married and had a child. So she was able to function in life because, again, those feelings were out. The parasympathetic nervous system was activated again, so she was calmer, and she was able to lead a fruitful and productive life. So again, it's rewarding for me, but that's what happens.
Wow. Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that story and really giving color to it, because I was always so curious about that. It's like I understand from my own personal experience, of how just ruminating on things, your trauma can really play a role. And then it shows up in every area of your life.
If
Even if
it,
you try and hide it or bury it, comes out in moments, or, when someone triggers you. And so,
yes,
yeah,
it
I really
does.
appreciate you walking the audience through that for anyone who's experiencing this. Um, so yeah, wow, oh my gosh. Whew, this conversation. I'm have chills. Thank you for this, by the way. It's very healing.
You're most welcome. And I'm sad that based on what you went through, but I'm glad that you're healed and healing. Always.
Yes,
I'm always healing. I'm always learning and healing from everybody I
me
speak to.
too.
So
No, me too. I mean, this show is so healing for me. Being
great.
able to share other people's stories and all the feedback I'm getting from it, but then also learning, through these experiences, even more about myself deeper. So it's been such a
Great.
beautiful process for me too. I'm just grateful to be
Okay.
used in this way by God.
Well,
So
listen, I can understand that. Yes. And
yes,
I'm grateful too that I was able to do
yeah,
this for people. It's
absolutely.
nothing else I'd rather do in life.
Yeah, me too. I say the same thing. Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit, but I am, want to go a little bit deeper, like, because in your decades of work, like, why do you think so many people resist the healing? Why do they even, like, stay suffering and stay in that phase? Do you think they're afraid to see what's on the other side of it? Like, what is that?
It's not the other side. What they're afraid of, and this is I deal with this with them all the time. What it is they're afraid to feel the feelings because they're painful. Feel the worthlessness, the emptiness, the violation of them. Feel their crushed childhood. They're afraid to feel the inadequacy, the defectiveness that they feel. So that's what it is. They're just afraid to feel that. When they get to the end, some of them are afraid to feel that when they talk to their abuser. They're afraid to feel the feelings. They're also afraid they might have some crumbs from the people they were getting. They don't want to break, so they don't want to make that person angry to cut off all conversations. So it's basically those two reasons. They're afraid to feel the feelings, and they're afraid to make it worse. So
Yes.
that's what happens. Those are the
Yes.
two reasons that I see.
Yes. I love that. And I would say it's a little bit of what's on the other side too, because that's all bottled up in fear. It's like
Yes,
you're in this fear state. It's very much a difference between living in fear and love. When you're
right.
living in that fear state, you're afraid of what other people will say. Will other, family turn against me? Like, if I
Right.
do this, if I call this person out, because what I have found in certain families is people rally around the abuser. They protect the abuser. Like,
Mhm.
let's just use your father in that
A
instance.
good
He
example.
protected your mother,
He
like,
did.
because he didn't get you help. He didn't, shield you from that. Like, he allowed it,
He,
and there's a
he
lot
did.
of enablers, in families that allow for that abuse. So I can imagine, a huge component of that fear is is not just facing it, but then what happens after.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Wow. For those, that are still hurting, if someone's listening and kind of feels stuck in their trauma or overwhelmed by their pain, like what's the very first step you'd encourage them to take?
Okay, find out the source of it. Find out
Mm.
the real source of it and who hurt you. That's the first step, and how you were hurt, and what you felt about it. That's again the first phase. That's really crucial, because we have to. I work with someone who actually, I said he uses the word. I had to source it. I had to figure out and source it where it really came from. He was a CEO of a company. He was, but. He was really expert at what he did, but he had all this pain inside from his childhood.
Mm.
So when he comes up with situations, the feelings come up, and he's not sure. So he says, I have to go back and source it, just like you told me to do. So that's what I tell everybody: source the thing, source where these feelings come from. First step.
So good, so good, and I think a large part of that leads you to the awareness that you talked about in your first phase.
Correct. Correct.
But also like starting with something I start with when I'm working with clients is being very honest and honest about where that source. I love that. I'm going to use that too, sourcing the abuse.
Go ahead, use it
So
all.
good.
Use it.
But it's so important to start with that level of honesty, because I think as much as it's difficult to face others, it's also difficult to face ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
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 So, wow.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, so good. Besides your book,
Yes.
what's one book that you would recommend, to audience, that's maybe instrumental in shaping your healing journey
I,
before you started writing your book?
I think it was written a long time ago,
Okay.
because a lot of the stuff I read, or even that I took in school, they weren't complete. Like I said, they didn't go as deep as I wanted it to, and nobody delineates the three phases like I have, that I could find ever. John Bradshaw, he's a guy that wrote, I think the book was Homecoming. He wrote about the inner child, okay, working with your inner child. I don't remember exactly all of it, but some of the concepts were very similar. Okay, he wasn't doing therapy in the book. He wasn't teaching that,
Mhm.
but he was explaining that if you still have feelings from your childhood, they need to be talked about and processed a bit. But I mean, Freud talked about, if you make the unconscious conscious,
Mhm.
that's enough to heal. And I said, no, it's not. It's just the beginning part, you know. And so many other people, even Gestalt therapy, I was trained in a lot. They talked about awareness, but they stayed a lot in the present and the awareness. They weren't so much with the completion and the second phase where they relive all those feelings. So mine is the one that I refer to. But if you want something similar in concept, it would be John Bradshaw and Homecoming.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I just really, oh my gosh, I enjoyed speaking to you so much. And I learned even more, which I love. I love learning. I'm like, I always say I'm a student and a teacher. And so I love being both. And I'm very grateful for this conversation. So thank you for blessing Sunday Soul Day.
And I thank you for your kindness. And it's an honor to me to be with you today and your audience. I'm grateful.
Thank you so
And you're
much.
welcome anytime to contact me. If you have questions,
Yes.
anything, you're welcome to. I'll answer them, or have me to talk again on anything. I'll be glad to
Yes,
do
I would appreciate that. And,
it. Sure.
I will also link all of his information in the
Okay.
description below if anyone's interested in working with Robert. Are you accepting new clients?
I am right now. Yes, I
Okay,
am.
wonderful. Yes, because I know that's a challenge with a lot of therapists. They're pretty booked up, and so that's wonderful.
I don't like to turn away anybody who really wants to do this work, so I will work as much as I can with people. I don't like to turn away anybody. So
Oh my gosh. Well, you're doing amazing work. Thank you for that. Everyone, as always, have an amazing Sunday and do us a favor. Leave your favorite part about this conversation with Robert in the comments below, or maybe something new that you learned.
thank you.